and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Julius Caesar, and today we get to hear from Mark Antony in Act 3, Scene 1. We're almost done with Act 3, Scene 1. There's today and tomorrow, and then we're done with this scene. So anyway, it is kind of a big, important scene, sort of near the beginning, middle-ish of it. Caesar gets killed by all the conspirators, who then bathe in his blood, and then Mark Antony's servant shows up and says, Mark Antony wants to know why you killed Caesar, but he wants to know that he's not going to get killed when he comes to ask you that question. And they're like, we won't kill him right now. And so then Mark Antony shows up, and he makes peace with all of the conspirators. He shakes all of their hands, getting Caesar's blood on him and then transferring it to Trebonius when he says, hey, Trebonius as well. But he makes a show of making peace with all of them so that he can hopefully find out why Caesar had to die. And Brutus is like, well, we'll tell you, we have good reasons. We need to settle the people down first, but we'll tell you. And Mark Antony's like, also, I'd really like to speak at his funeral if that's cool. And Cassius isn't so sure about that, but Brutus is like, no, it's fine. We'll give him some parameters. I'll speak first. We'll tell him he can't say anything mean about us. And Mark Antony agrees to those terms. So they're like, okay, great. Let's get ready for the funeral. You get the body ready, and yeah, we'll see you at the funeral. So then everybody except for Mark Antony and the dead body of Caesar leaves the stage. And Mark Antony gets a moment to speak to Caesar and to actually kind of mourn him. He was sort of trying to before, and he was getting distracted, and there was probably a measure of, I don't want to cry too much in front of all these men who just killed Caesar, sort of a thing. And he was also sort of fearing for his own life. But in this moment, he gets to have a little bit of time by himself on the stage with the body, and he says, "Oh, pardon me, thou bleeding piece of earth, that I am meek and gentle with these butchers. Thou art the ruins of the noblest man that ever lived in the tide of times. Woe to the hand that shed this costly blood. Over thy wounds now do I prophesy, which, like dumb mouths, do open their ruby lips to beg the voice and utterance of my tongue. A curse shall light upon the limbs of men. Domestic fury and fierce civil strife shall cumber all the parts of Italy. Blood and destruction shall be so in use, and dreadful objects so familiar, that mothers shall but smile when they behold their infants quartered with the hands of war. All pity choked with custom of fell deeds, and Caesar's spirit ranging for revenge, with Ate by his side, come hot from hell, shall in these confines with a monarch's voice cry havoc, and let slip the dogs of war, that this foul deed shall smell above the earth with carrion men groaning for burial." You serve Octavius Caesar, do you not? Oh, so it's a big piece. It's a big piece. He once again gets to kind of sort of mourn Caesar, say that he misses Caesar and thought that he was really noble and everything like that. But then he predicts that Caesar's death means that Rome and all of Italy is going to tumble into this horrible, terrible war where mothers are seeing their infants ripped apart, and Caesar's spirit is going to come down from hell with all the other gods, and they're going to, just wreak havoc over all of Italy until Italy is just a dead, burnt wasteland. And then Octavius Caesar's servant shows up, so he's like, hey, you're Octavius Caesar's servant, aren't you? And that's the very last line of it. And this servant's like, yep, I am. Holy crap, Caesar's dead. And the two of them get to cry for a brief little moment. And then before we finish with Act 3, Scene 1, we get tomorrow's monologue, which are Mark Antony's words of advice to and words of instruction to Octavius Caesar's servant before he goes back to Octavius Caesar. Not the same as Julius Caesar. Octavius Caesar is still alive. And he's sort of in the area. So yeah, Mark Antony has some things to fill him in on, and we will hear about those tomorrow. I'll see you then. Mwah.